Hello, whisperers. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy tonight's tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps more than you know. Now, dim the lights, and let's begin tonight's story. I thought retirement would feel quieter. Not lazy quiet, just the kind of stillness you earn after years of hurry and gunpowder. The suburb had its noises, lawnmowers, kids on bikes, the hum of a neighbor's TV through the walls, but it was the kind of noise you could trust, noise with rules. That morning it wasn't right. The air felt heavier, like before a thunderstorm. I was sitting at the kitchen table, coffee cooling in front of me, half listening to a news anchor trip over words about civil unrest in the city. They'd been saying that all week: riots, drug-induced assaults, first responders stretched thin. But the footage behind her, it wasn't protests. It was people tearing at each other with their teeth. The camera cut away too fast, like someone upstairs decided the public wasn't ready. I'd seen people kill before. I'd never seen anyone eat another man alive. I turned the volume down, let the silence fill the room. My house sat on the edge of a cul-de-sac, middle class to the bone. A flag hung from my porch, faded from too many summers, but still there. Across the street, old man Myers watered his lawn, hose dragging behind him. Normal things, ordinary things, except he was wearing pajama pants at 10 in the morning, and he hadn't noticed the hose was flooding his driveway. That's when the first scream carried over the rooftops. Not the kind you hear at a barbecue when kids are playing tag. No, it was raw, panicked, tearing at the throat. My chair was already scraping back, my boots already moving. Habit, that's the thing nobody tells you about getting out. You don't really. The body remembers. I grabbed the .45 from the safe in the hall closet. Not because I was paranoid, not because I'd been waiting for this exact moment, because it was there, because Marines don't waste time wishing things away. Outside, the street felt tilted. Myers was gone. The hose still ran. Birds had scattered off the wires. At the corner house where the Rodriguez kid usually tossed a football against the garage, the door was wide open. I should have turned back. Instead, I walked in. The smell hit me first. Copper. The living room was wrecked, furniture knocked over like a fight had chewed through it. The boy, Alex, 14, maybe 15, was standing by the couch, hands trembling. His eyes met mine, wide, pleading. "Help him," he whispered. I followed his gaze. His father lay on the floor, chest ripped open, shirt soaked. My brain tried to slot it into something familiar. Car accident, maybe, or a fall. Except the wound wasn't clean. Flesh was missing. And when the body moved, it wasn't the twitch of death. The man groaned, sat up in jerks. His mouth glistened with blood. "Alex, back up." My voice came out steady, even though my gut was ice. The boy didn't move. He just shook his head, like denial could glue the world back together. His father crawled toward him, eyes gone cloudy. teeth clicking. I didn't have the luxury of disbelief. One round, straight through the head. The man dropped like a sack of sand. Alex looked devastated. You killed him. I holstered, grabbed the boy by the shoulders. Listen to me. That wasn't your dad anymore. Do you understand? He shoved me, tears streaking his face. You don't know that. I did. God help me. I did. That was when the pounding started. Front porch, fists slamming wood, shadows in the frosted glass. More groans. Upstairs, I told the kid, pushing him toward the stairs. Now, we barely made it halfway before the door caved in. 3 of them stumbled inside. Neighbors, people I recognized. Mrs. Hendricks, who always brought pies to block parties. A guy from 2 doors down who'd helped me lift a new grill last summer. Their skin was torn, lips slick with meat. The kid froze. I hauled him the rest of the way up, shoving him into a bedroom. Locked the door, turned the dresser sideways against it. Downstairs, the groans turned into snarls. Feet dragged across the hardwood. I put my back to the wall, pistol steady in my hands, and realized something I hadn't felt in years. Not fear. Not exactly. It was the gut-deep certainty that this was only the start. We didn't stay in that bedroom. Couldn't. The wood on the doorframe was already groaning under the weight of hands pounding against it, and the dresser legs scraped forward inch by inch. Alex was curled on the carpet, arms over his head, whispering something that sounded like a prayer, but wasn't. I crouched beside the window, pulled the curtain back an inch. Street below looked like a movie reel spliced wrong. People, neighbors, shambled between parked cars, bumping into fences, dragging themselves across lawns. Their movements weren't random. They were listening. Heads cocked when someone screamed, bodies turning in perfect unison toward the sound. We needed out. I shoved the window open, slid the screen free, and jerked my head at Alex. You trust me? His lip trembled. You just shot my dad. I didn't flinch. That's not what I asked. A pause. Then a small nod. That was enough. We slipped out onto the roof, shingles rough under our palms. From there it was a low crawl to the back edge, then a drop into hedges that left Alex with scratches but breathing. My boots hit the ground soft, knees bending the way they taught us in training. Some lessons never rot. We cut across yards, moving fence to fence. I carried the .45, 1 magazine left, each round heavy in my mind. Not enough, never enough. I kept scanning windows, corners, shadows. Civilians? Infected? Couldn't tell from a distance until they moved. At my own house, I keyed the lock fast, pushed Alex inside, shut, and bolted. The air smelled clean, pine cleaner, gun oil, coffee gone cold. My little fortress. I hadn't built it to be one, but it was. Reinforced doors, heavy drapes, back exit straight to the garage. Alex hovered by the doorway, eyes darting. You hungry? I asked, like normalcy could glue him back together. He shook his head. Sit tight. I went room to room, secured shutters, dropped blinds, checked lines of fire from the windows. It was rote, mechanical, the way you clean your weapon or fold your pack. Security first, always security. Then came the knock. Not at my door, at my neighbor's. Fists pounding, frantic. I peeked through the slit in my blinds. Two women, one carrying a toddler, the other bleeding from the arm. They were screaming, begging to be let inside the Myers house. But Myers was gone, probably one of them now. I clenched my jaw. Alex appeared beside me. We have to help them. Helping people gets you killed, I said before I could stop myself. The words felt cold, even in my own mouth. The groans came from the cul-de-sac, half a dozen infected shuffling fast, picking up the scent of blood. The women didn't have minutes. I holstered, yanked the front door open, and waved hard. Here. Now. They sprinted across the street, the little one's wails carried like a beacon, dragging the pack after them. I lined up shots, each one measured. First round took a man in the temple. Second round punched through Mrs. Hendrick's chest. Christ, it had been her once. Two more down before they reached the porch. The women tumbled inside, sobbing. I slammed the door, threw the deadbolt. Quiet, I hissed. Sound brings them. The mother of the toddler cradled him, rocking, whispering, "Shh, shh." But the kid's cries just kept coming. The bleeding woman pressed her arm with a towel I tossed her. Alex glared at me. Helping people gets you killed, huh? I didn't answer. Instead, I pulled them into the living room, started arranging furniture into a barricade across the main windows. I delegated. Alex watched the back door. You, I pointed at the mother. Find every blanket you can. Keep the kid warm. Keep him quiet. You, pressure on that arm. Don't let up until I say. Maybe they weren't Marines, but people listen when you speak with certainty, and certainty is sometimes all you've got. That night, or maybe it was just afternoon, I couldn't tell anymore. The cul-de-sac filled with noise, more infected, drawn to gunshots. Shapes pressed against windows, shadows pacing the street. We sat behind barricades, barely breathing, listening to fingernails scrape siding. I thought about Fallujah, about Helmand, about all the times I'd told myself war belonged overseas, that my quiet little street would never see the same nightmares. I was wrong. When the first window shattered, glass spraying across the barricade, I knew the cul-de-sac wasn't going to hold. Not tonight, not ever. The first window broke in a spray of glass, and then everything went loud. I fired point blank into the shape pulling itself through the frame, blood misting across the drapes. The women screamed, the kid wailed, and the pounding outside surged like a tide. The cul-de-sac was gone. The illusion of safety, the quiet order of lawns and mailboxes, all swallowed under groans and splintering wood. This house won't hold, I said, reloading. We're moving. Now. I'd seen it in combat 100 times. You can fight for ground or you can live to see the next dawn. This wasn't ground worth dying for. I grabbed what I could. A go bag I'd never once expected to use. Extra mags, a hatchet. Handed Alex a baseball bat from the garage. Pressed the bleeding woman's shaking hands around a kitchen knife. She looked like she'd never held one in her life. Stay behind me, I told them. No hesitation. If it grabs you, you don't scream. You fight. The back door was our only shot. I shouldered it open into the garage, heart thundering, barrel sweeping corners. The stench of motor oil and damp concrete hit me like memory. I lifted the door just enough to slide under. Cold night air rushed in, carrying a chorus of groans. The street behind us wasn't empty. Shapes moved between parked cars, lurching toward the sound of metal. Go! I shoved Alex through, then the women. I came last, dropping the door behind us with a crash that might as well have been a flare. We ran, down alleys through backyards, feet crunching frost-bitten grass. I kept my eyes scanning, mind-mapping exit routes the way I used to plan patrols. Get them moving, keep them alive, don't think about tomorrow. Half a block down, we hit a choke point. An overturned SUV jackknifed across the road. Infected swarmed around it, feeding on what used to be a driver. Their heads snapped toward us in unison. Cover, I called, even though no one had real weapons. I advanced, 45 steady, every shot deliberate. One round through the temple of a man still wearing his delivery uniform. Another through the eye of what used to be a jogger in neon sneakers. Alex swung the bat at one that slipped close, bone cracking loud. He staggered back, horror plain on his face, but he didn't drop the bat. Good kid. We carved through, messy and desperate. By the time the last body dropped, my slide locked back on an empty chamber. The silence after gunfire is worse than the noise. That silence lets you hear the moans converging from blocks away. Highway, I rasped. We make the highway, we stand a chance. We push through streets littered with overturned trash cans, burning cars, doors swinging open onto empty houses. Once familiar suburbia stripped down to bone and ash. At the final turn, the highway came into view, and with it, a sight that froze us in place. Jets thundered overhead, streaking low. Then came the sound, not of bombs, not exactly, but of fire. The city on the horizon glowed orange, whole blocks set alight, controlled burns, a purge. This wasn't an outbreak. This was a war. I felt the civilians sag around me, hope bleeding out of their faces. The mother clutched her kid so tight he whimpered. The bleeding woman whispered, "They're burning us out." I set a hand on her shoulder, hard enough to make her look at me. No, they're buying us time. That's what fire does, buys time. I scanned the highway, wrecked cars, yes, but also lanes still clear enough to move. North would take us away from the fire, maybe towards something better. I turned to Alex, who hadn't let go of the bat. He looked at me the way young Marines used to, scared, hungry for orders, desperate not to break. "Listen," I said, voice steady though my throat burned. "This isn't going back to normal. You understand that? The world you knew is gone, but that doesn't mean we're gone. We keep moving, we keep each other alive, we don't stop." His chin quivered, but he nodded. We stepped onto the highway together, the sun dying red behind us, smoke pillars clawing the sky. My 45 was empty, my arms heavy, my future a question mark. But I wasn't done. Retired didn't mean useless. Retired didn't mean finished. 12 hours into the end of the world, I was back where I belonged, leading people through hell, one block at a time.